Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Okay. All right. So we're back with Laura Brand, and we have how many people?
Death row inmates from San Quentin on with us.
How many?
3.
We have 3 death row. Are we going to identify them?
We have Omega,
Okay.
Senior, and Junior. We're gonna keep it nickname today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So live from San Quentin. Is this San Quentin?
Well, not really San Quentin.
Okay.
They're all from Vacaville.
They're all from Vacaville. Okay. So live from Vacaville.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, start it off, Laura. Kind of get us get going. This is interesting.
So when this all started off, when they started to dismantle. Well, I got the word they were going to dismantle death row. I mean, it was so historic. My dad is a professor. He's a big history buff. And I called him, I said, they're dismantling death row. And he's like, that is so historic. And I was like, I know. And I'm going to go out there for it. And obviously you guys came out there for it. And we all got to be a part of it. And, it really wasn't reported on what was happening. And kind of preface your other, podcast with Alcatraz. Imagine if there was, the dismantling of Alcatraz, documented, or, when they escaped them, if they had interviewed, the inmates or the correctional officers the day after, they had escaped from Alcatraz, the inescapable prison. So, it was really historical when they decided to dismantle death row and move you guys off of death row. So, I really wanted to capture that and document it, especially because the media was not doing so. And I want to thank you guys for being here. I know it's not easy to come on a public platform because of, public scrutiny, and your attorneys are always in your ears. So I really appreciate it for you guys coming on just to talk about your experience of what it was like being on death row. And, San Quentin is the oldest prison in California, but not only that, it's also the largest death row in the nation. So, we were all there for, the dismantling of the largest death row in the nation. And it was surreal to experience. And you guys were there. All of us were there. And I think it's time to really start to talk about, what happened.
Sounds good. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I don't think anyone's really thought about that ever. And there's one potential time that they spoke about that was in 2004, 2006, when they were putting the abolishment of the death penalty on the ballot to be voted on. And that kind of created a taste of what guys were mentally going to go through with a bigger picture when they did actually dismantle death row. And even that was a chaotic time just with the votes going up amongst the inmates.
One of the most surprising aspects is you guys did not want
This
death row
call
to be,
and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
did not want it to be dismantled, which a lot of people don't know about. So when you guys heard they were going to dismantle it, talk about that from each of your perspective, what you guys thought, what was going through your head.
I think when you initially get there, you get there, like, you come to terms with your situation. Like me, I was like, okay, I'm going to die. And for the longest time, I never pictured leaving East Block or the AC at that. Never did I think I would leave San Quentin. I was there Not as long as these other guys, but short, a little less. But for decades, I was like, this is my home. Like I even went to committee one time, and it was a warden at the time. It was a female. She's like, "Why are you being good? You've never been good." I was like, "I'm finally home. This is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life." So when they passed the bills, even when they passed the bill, it took 6 years to even start moving us. For that 6 years, I was like, "Oh, they'll find a way out of this. It's never going to happen. They're going to, they always backpedal. Everything they do, they'll pass a law. They backpedal. They do this." So when they started doing the volunteer program, I was supposed to be a part of that, but I wound up in the hospital temporarily, so I got shifted off the thing. And again, after that, because they took so long to restart it, I thought they were going to cancel it again. So with that being said, I never thought I would leave there. Even all my people, I was convinced this is where I'm going to die. I will die in San Quentin. This is my home. I'm not worried about being executed, but I'm going to die of old age in this place. So when it came to time to be a transfer, because me and Junior, we were on the same bus when we came here. So we got transferred. You can see, I know I was shocked, just like to actually be like, damn, they're actually upholding this. They're really moving us. We're not coming back here unless we're going to be executed because we can't be housed there. But it's like, this is actually something they're following through with. And many of us, we didn't want to leave because, personally with me, I'm still close to home. When I was there, I was very close to home. And you get used to being in one spot. There, we could do whatever we want. Our punishment, we couldn't be transferred anywhere. Now, if we get in trouble, we can be transferred other places. Everybody had different reasons for why they didn't want to leave. Some were scary, some, their lawyers or whatever. But personally, myself, I just wanted to stay close to home. That's about it.
Right. And I just want, the viewers don't really understand prison, let alone death row, which is a different aspect of a prison. Can you explain what committee is? And, for the viewers who don't understand what that is.
Committee is like kangaroo court. Whatever, depending on what you can win there for and who you are is how they treat you. But personally, my committees have never been good. You go in there, I think it's called ICC. You got the warden, associate warden, captains, your so-called counselor is supposed to be working on your side, but it's actually a correctional officer.
This call and your telephone number will be
Hold on 1 second, Omega, because I got to answer. Oh, never mind. That's Ing, your... Never mind. It's your buddy down the hall trying to beep in. Sorry, continue about committee so it's the warden, the assistant warden, and this is when you guys kind of go up against, the judgment court.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you pretty much go in there, you're handcuffed, you're sitting in a chair backwards, and they say what they want to say, no matter what the situation is, whether you're trying to get to another unit, whatever it is, there's never... my experience, there's never anything positive on their end to say. Nothing. Even when I went in there one time trying to figure out a way to avoid all the stupid write-ups I was getting a little panty-anty write-ups, and I was in there trying to figure out, hey, what can I do to make this stop? And Captain Arnold, or Lieutenant Arnold, whatever he was at the time, he goes, well, my stat tells you to jump, you're going to jump. And I'm like, that's not what's going to happen, bro. I'm like, I'm in here trying to get help, and you're still trying to belittle me. Or, put me in my place, as I would say. So you go in there, it's pretty much like if you're getting out of a hole, you're in the hole, and you got to go to committee to be released. They're like, it's sort of like a parole board, I guess you would say, but it's something we deal with at least once a year. They review our points, review our program, and be like, okay, you're doing this program, here's what we're going to do with you next. It's already pre-planned, the decisions are already made, and it's a joke for the most part. That's right.
And Junior and Senior, what do you say about, when you heard and you got called in for committee? Tell us about your experience.
Well, this is Senior speaking. Well, when I was first called into committee about transfers, my story is a little bit different than most of the other guys that are on death row.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Because I had been in prison prior to going to death row, in a number of prisons, as a matter of fact. But I had never been in San Quentin, nor had I been on death row. So I was looking forward to the transfers because I was surprised when I first got to death row the death row was ran the way it was ran. The isolation, the cell time was ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And I like being outside, being able to get outside the cell and move around and associate with other people. So that was my story as far as the transfers were concerned. I was looking forward to it.
Junior? Junior? All right, I don't know. You should be on. I don't know what's going on. All right, well, I'll move on then. Well, what did you guys? What was your take about San Quentin when you guys first got there on death row? I mean, did you like? What did you like? What did you dislike? Maybe this is him trying to beep in. Hold on.
This is senior again.
Give me 1 second. Let me. So
it's very, very busy.
It's very, yeah, it's very. You got a lot of activity happening over here.
Your dance card is full.
I know, and then you know who's trying to beep in.
Oh, I know. It's like 1,000 times. He won't stop.
Never.
I think it's interesting for people to understand. Okay, so what type of crimes get you on death row? Like, how do how do they? Right. I just think people need to understand. So a lot of people don't understand, like, what is the difference between
what gets you on death row. Obviously, it's murder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, guys.
Capital crimes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let me check them out.
It's a murder linked to another crime that gives you the special circumstances to get you eligible for special circumstances to be on death row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just have a question for.
I have multiples. I have just one that I'm convicted of.
Yeah. For the question for
your telephone number will be monitored and
oh my
recorded.
God.
It's like
so
chaos.
Busy. It's chaos.
Seconds remaining.
Are they all calling in from separate sources?
No, it's
Are they together?
It's Ing.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Just tell them you're calling back.
Yeah. Oh no, that's Corey. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna tell the other ones we're recording. Sorry, guys. Too many serial killers calling.
I know.
Daily basis. Okay. Here we go. So yeah, Rob was saying, like, what does it take to get somebody on death row? Most people don't understand what leads to death row or how you can get a death row conviction.
It's a murder or multiple murders linked to other crimes. If it's a single murder, it's got to be linked to like murder rape, murder robbery, murder kidnap, murder torture, laying in wait to murder somebody, or multiple murders.
It's murder.
Yeah. That's what I would assume it was murder. Just a question for each one of you is how much time have you spent in prison currently?
I've been in prison personally since '93, and I'm now going to turn 51. So I spent the majority of my life in prison, which is over 30 years.
I've been down since August 16th, 1995. I initially fell on another case. I fell on an attempted murder, and then on my parole date, they came and gave me the multiple murders, which gave me the death penalty.
Yeah. So every time that you guys, when you were in, you were all part of the death penalty program. So you saw, because the last person, from my recollection, from what I know, the last person that got put to death in death row was Tukey Williams. Is that correct?
Yes, he just said Tukey Williams. Yes. And that was lethal injection.
Yeah. What is that like, knowing when that was happening, knowing that you got the death sentence? Hold on, I'll wait.
Yeah. What was it like knowing you guys got a death penalty?
Death penalty, and did you know how you eventually were going to die?
Call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What was the question? Sorry, answer it again.
The question was, when you were sentenced to death and you were put into San Quentin and you saw someone else, you knew that that's what your future was. What goes through your mind knowing that you'll probably be executed? Now obviously that hasn't happened, but when you went in, that was the plan.
And you were pretty young when you went in your early 20s?
I was 19 years old. Yeah, I was like, when I got to death penalty, I was 24, but I fought my case for 5 years.
19 years old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 1924.
And I was in my
senior was about 40.
I was in my 40s.
40s for senior.
Yeah. So what's that like, knowing that when you get sentenced to death like that and you get thrown into San Quentin and you know that you're probably going to be executed there, what goes through your mind one at a time? Tell me your answers.
Well, actually, I was going to say, you guys never have, when I talk to them, they never have fear of being executed, right?
So I'll tell you this. When I got there, I was the youngest, so I'll start out as the youngest guy. I had faith that the system would work and the truth would come out and I wouldn't be punished for anything but according to what I was actually accused of being done. But it didn't work out like that. And the justice system turned out to reveal a face to me that I never thought existed. So it was kind of a culture shock of what was going on. But at the same time, I thought to myself, I'm so young, they're never going to kill me. And even if they do attempt to do it, I'll never give them the chance. I'll never give them the glory or the fame of executing me. Because I didn't want the state to be authority over my life in that way. And when I got to death row, it was kind of an eerie thing when I walked in there, because I got there early in the day, but they left me sitting in a patrol car for hours. So by the time I walked from the R&R to the AC to the Adjustment Center, it was nighttime. And it was a really eerie walk. And I kind of got a sense of like, this is my fate. This is where I'm going to die. But I didn't feel I was going to die by execution. I thought I was going to die by being in prison culture, prison life, prison violence, and no other way. But I never once believed that the system was going to kill me.
Interesting. How about you, Senior?
Yeah, in my case, it's a different story. When they gave me the death sentence, I had anticipated receiving the death sentence, so I wasn't shocked or surprised at all. When I got to San Quentin, that was my first time of being at San Quentin, and I had settled in just like I had settled in other prisons. So, like I said, I wasn't surprised or shocked, that I was on death row.
But according to what Laura was telling us just recently, that neither you guys weren't afraid to die from the death penalty?
No, I wasn't afraid at all.
That's interesting. Laura, what do you make of that?
Well, everyone, from what the general consensus that I've heard is, what was the last execution? 2006? Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
2006.
Another inmate and myself, we had in about 2010, 2011, because what takes our appeal so long is that direct appeal. It's an automatic appeal that they've made it mandatory. And there's people that have been on death row for 30 years that haven't even had one appeal. Like, I waited like 16, 17 years before my first appeal to go through. So me and another inmate, we wrote the courts challenging
that automatic appeal going. You're forcing this appeal upon us that we don't want because nobody really gets action from it. It's just like one of those appeals that doesn't get you home or nothing like that. It's just like a formality that the courts go through. It's just a waste of time. So we wrote to get that out, and the courts wrote us back saying, we wrote them saying, here, we hereby abandon all appeals, fuck this appeal, execute us. They wrote us back saying, we cannot do that because there's an automatic appeal. You have to have your counsel. You have to go through this appeal. They will not even let you drop your appeals if you want to. They won't.
It's
so
true.
we kept going to, there's a program that Polly Claus's dad and some other guy are a part of, they're for the death penalty for executions. We contacted them going, okay, you guys are, because our thing is, we don't want the execution. We just want our appeals sped up. I'm like, I don't want to sit on death row for 30 to 40 years and only had one appeal. So we're trying to get our appeals sped up to get this due process. So we got a hold of the foundation that Polly Claus's dad was a part of, and we're like, hey, can you help us out? They're like, well, this isn't confidential. We're like, that's fine. They're like, you guys are for the death penalty. Help us get this direct appeal kicked out so you can avoid it. We don't have to take it unless you want to. What they wind up doing is they wind up tucking tails and say, oh, this is too political. We can't help you. I'm like, you guys say you're for the death penalty, but then you tuck tail when somebody's actually trying to get it done. Or like just trying to force the law to, uphold their rules and regulations and uphold their punishment. If it comes to that, like I never knew, when I got to death row, I was number like 584 on the row. I was never worried about execution. I was like, yeah, this is a joke. I know I'm going to be here for the long run. Only way they're going to get to me is if they like do one a day for the next few years. When I got the death penalty in court, and this isn't to brag or nothing, but I laughed at them. I knew I was just like the senior. I knew I was going to get the death penalty. I knew I was going to get the death penalty.
Your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Well,
before I even went to trial, because some of the cap lawyers were coming to see me, and they said, if you get found guilty, you're going to death row. We already knew it just because of my history.
What's funny is because we've done a lot of episodes on Bittaker and Norris, who I've worked with extensively off of death row. And people always ask me, how did he beat the death penalty? And this goes to what they're saying is he filed the appeal and it was 40 years. I mean, he filed it when I was 2 years old at 1990, which is exactly what they're talking about. And that's why the fear
and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
There isn't much fear because of the appeals.
Wait, say that again.
Sorry. Let me just finish that. There's not much fear because of the lack of the appeals going forward. And that's why Bittaker was able to beat the death penalty with the habeas corpus, because people are very confused about that. And this is why. What they're talking about. But I just want to
telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I just want to change gears because guys, we've actually we know Polly Class's father. And we followed that case. It's horrific. And you guys actually spent time with him in prison. Can you tell us about what his life was like in prison? What it was
Richard Allen Davis?
Yes, please.
A miserable existence. I can personally tell you his existence with cell living, no one wanted to talk to except maybe his immediate neighbors, which was very few. And when he went out to the yard, he would sit there in the center of the yard almost, in his boxers with no shirt on, and he would just stand in one spot the whole day until he went in, and no one would talk to him. No one would talk to this guy. He was like the worst of the worst when it came to socialization. No one wanted to even socialize with him or proceed to socializing with him for the repercussions they would bring. And I'll tell you this. One day he went to medical, to dental, and we had to walk by mainline inmates to get to dental. A mainline inmate attacked Richard Davis. So he was not despised just by death row inmates. He was despised by every inmate in the prison system, pretty much.
Interesting.
They whooped his ass. Mm-hmm.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Good.
Yeah.
What he did was disgraceful.
Yeah, it was horrible.
They came through later on collecting coffee for the guys who did it. Like, they got coffee and stuff for the guys who did this.
Oh my God. So the guys who beat him up got rewarded?
Yeah.
Well, sort of like, you know, like some of the COs come around, pick up a collection for it, like, hey, these guys are in the hole, because he was under escort when it happened. You know, he's walking with the CO and they just rushed him. CO can't do nothing but, you know, blow his whistle and pepper spray. That only does so much. That's not going to stop nothing. So they got him, you know, they got the good licks in on him. You know, they went to the hole, of course, but when he was dealing the hole, they were well taken care of.
Wow. I did not know that story.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
And another part of that story is that when they attacked someone with notoriety like Richard Davis, we used to go under one-man escorts, meaning one inmate, one officer, wherever we went on death row. But when that happened, they tried doing two officers to every inmate as escorts. And we told officers, because they were like, oh, we got to do this for your protection. And a lot of us were telling them, hey, we don't have cases. We don't have worries like they have.
I'm not a weirdo. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, like, I'm not a weirdo.
We're not scum of the earth in prison life. It's guys like him that need the protection, not us. But they tried to do that to every death row inmate because of him.
Wow. I know it's hanging up on one of you. Can all of you hang up and call back at the same time so I get you all on the same?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, boss.
I'll call back right now.
Yes, boss.
You ready?
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It's like,
I didn't know that story.
what were their crimes?
There is a serial killer.
Right. So how many people did he?
Unalive.
8 people.
8 unalive.
Oh.
Wow.
Hmm.
So young.
Mm-hmm. Very young.
I mean, it goes back to this idea of like, this starts early. This isn't like something that happens later in life usually. This is something that really starts when they're on that puberty level of like fantasy and reality.
I'm telling you, it starts that young.
We really need as a society to pay more attention to these kids.
Really, we do.
Something's wrong. This is a societal issue. This is.
And you look at what's happening to, with the school shooters. I mean, to me, that's an indicator that things are getting worse, not better.
Exactly.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the medication that's, they're finding that out too. We're so over medicated, those kids, the ADHD stuff. They tried to put my son on that and he was on it for a little bit. I fought it and he hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does much better with diet, exercise, meditation. Those are things that they should be teaching these kids at a young age. This is a societal issue. This is systematic. I mean, the fact that this is continuous now. Very young people.
For using Global Tel Link.
Very young. And I will say though, as somebody with ADHD, it's been life-changing for me. You too?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
Rob and I are always in the prison. That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, it's been, we'll talk about that later when we don't.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, we got on one, guys. But you know what I want to ask you, Richard Allen Davis, that's such an interesting story. Was there any other death row inmates that maybe we have heard about? Did they get kind of, targeted within San Quentin from what you guys saw?
Well,
one at a time. You got to direct him. Just tell him.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Just tell him. Junior first.
I was saying,
a lot of inmates had targets on them that had cases that had to do with children or some sick stuff. And Charles M and some guys, they couldn't exactly get in touch because they were, in a sense, protected by separation of yards and classification, dividing inmates up according to stuff like that. But there was opportunity. For example, this actually happened. A guard purposefully opened the wrong gate because the yards are back to back. He purposely opened the wrong gate and let one of the guys go on to Charles M's yard. And the guy immediately took off running for Charles M, targeted him, started beating the shit out of him, punched him, and knocked him out in the shower.
Well, you know what the guards did to me with Ing.
Yeah.
We know about that story.
Yeah,
Sore subject, yes.
Yeah.
But let me just say, as a criminologist, I have been in the prisons and I have experienced a little bit of what you
This
guys
call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
what you guys have gone through being set up like that. Yeah.
Oh, they play favorites. The CEOs, they gangbang too. They do the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game. Familiar with the game. For instance, like he was just saying, I was on a particular yard, and my yard was next door to one of the protective custody yards. So on certain days, for me, sort of yard, like when you walk in the Sally Court, when I walk in the Sally Court, I'm cuffed. There's the gate to the left, there's the gate to the right. My gate for my yard is on the left. The gate to the PC yard is on the right. They uncuff me. And you're supposed to face your yard. I continue to look forward. So whatever gate they open is the yard I'm going to. When they open the PC yard, it's mandatory that I
Omega, you're echoing a little bit. Omega, you're echoing. Yeah, a little bit.
Am I still echoing now?
Yeah, way better. But by the way, PC, for everybody who's listening, that means protective custody. Just explain it for the viewers a little bit.
We call it pork chops. Yeah, PC, protective custody. It's not just sex offenders. It's mostly sex offenders.
Back up from the mic a little bit. You're just like sounding like Darth Vader. You're perfect right now. Perfect.
Fine, your father. How about now?
That's
good.
better.
Better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like PC, there's most of the PCs are child molesters, rapists, people that don't like to pay their drug debts. Scary. Some people get put in PC because that's what the system puts them. Don't get me wrong. PC, even though there's most of them are pieces, I call pieces of crap. But some are still fighters, some are still riders. They're just there. They got tired of the bullshit or whatever. Like some are there. There's some righteous people that are out there, but 99% of them are scum of the. As for the prison totem pole, they're under the totem pole. Nobody would piss on them if they were on fire. Like you just step right over them. So like for my thing, if I was to go like on my yard, if they open their gate, it's mandatory that I run out there, and pretty much the first one that I see, I got to take flight on. It's pretty much mandatory because this yard, everybody on this yard is a target. If you're PC, you're a target. And if you get to the high profile case ones, that's even better. Like you want to sort of leave your mark with them. You want to dog them out if you can, like leave your mark. And you're not going to get much time to do much to them, but you just got to do what you can while you have a chance. And the CO, every once in a while, if you get a cool CO and that's what you're on, they'll open the door for you. They'll let you get yours on for a minute.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's a very insane environment, truly. I mean, it really is.
Officers, they politic too. Officers politic just like inmates do.
Mm-hmm.
What is your biggest survival skill behind bars?
Oh, that's a great question. What is all of your biggest survival skill behind bars? Each one of you.
But tell them which one first.
All right, I'm going to do this first. Senior, you're going to go first. What is your biggest survival skill behind bars?
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Spotify.
You're talking to senior?
Senior, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my biggest survival skill is experience. Like I said, I've been in the prison system long before I went to death row, and I know people, and I've been around for a long time. I'm 70 years old, so I understand the system.
Okay.
Junior?
Street smarts. Being able to read people and read the environment.
I couldn't hear what he said. What did he say?
Street smarts and being able to read the environment.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So to avoid conflict as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go back for a second. So what's his name? Richard?
Oh, wait, I just want to ask Omega, what's your biggest survival skill?
Mind my own business. Mind my own, just, I do what I want to do, but I don't get anybody else's business. I try to hold things for mine. Stay out of my business and we're okay.
He minds his own business.
Okay. So a lot of psychological stuff, nothing physical.
Yeah. Prison's it's one big mind game. It's like high school, but the consequences are death.
Consequences are death.
Your call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Yeah.
You have to view life in prison as a chess game on multiple levels all throughout the day. So you don't have a chess game to get through day-to-day prison life. If you have chess games, you play with each and every inmate that you're around, because each individual might have a multiple personality or some kind of bad mood or whatever's going on. That individual has.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
You are always playing chess when you're not around your regulars that you trust.
Even when you're in jail, sometimes you have to. It's a big mind game.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what he said.
Omega, can you get closer to the mic? And Junior, you're mumbling a little bit.
Oh my God. I said prison is just pretty much a big mind fuck. You get caught up in whether you have to manipulate the system or you catch somebody trying to manipulate you or you catch somebody trying to lie to you. And unfortunately, it tends to lead into our personal lives too, because you're on this guard all the time. You're on guard. This person could be my buddy, but at the same time, I don't know if he has a hidden agenda. For instance, you could be doing business with somebody and you tell them, hey, don't tell nobody this, but then you catch them telling somebody. So it's like, you're on my side. You're not going to run your mouth to other people, but a lot of people can't hold their mud and they'll act like they're your friend because they want to get something from you. You know how that is. Everybody's experienced that. And people, so you got to be really mentally strong in reading people and knowing, trying to figure out what their truest intentions are. Are they really my friend? Are they really my associate? Are they just trying to use me for something because I have money? Is that the reason they hang out with me? Or do they feel like being around me, they feel protected or something like that because of where I'm from or whatever? It's just one big mind fuck.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right. So this question is for Senior, and then the rest, and we'll go that first. When you were first put into death row, and when are death row inmates, when they're first put in death row, are they bigger? Are they?
Telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
When you guys were transferred to out of death row and they dissolved it and they put you in general population, were you guys targets?
You're talking about general population on death row?
No, I'm talking about when you were when they dissolved death row and they moved you to Vacaville and you put you in general population. Were you a target?
Yeah. No. Call him right back. Call him right back. 1370. Call him right back.
Okay. Why don't you guys both hang up so we can reset all of you?
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I want to hear the answer to that question from each of them, because as we know, a lot of them told you that they were nervous.
Mm-hmm.
These guys seem like they're pretty institutionalized.
Yeah.
And they're pretty, they weren't afraid of death. They knew they were getting death row, and but they also knew the system. They knew it was going to take a long time for them to kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, in California. If they were in Texas, it would have been a different deal.
Oh, Florida, Texas. Yeah, they would have been gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And what else you want to kind of dive into with them after
I
they ask this
more of
question?
like when they found out at San Quentin that the transfers were going to happen, like the whole what happened to the prison, what during the transfers with the psych department, what they went through, leading up to pretty much the whole thing.
Okay. Are they back?
But also, like, what does that mean for their cases now that they're in off of death?
That's a great question. I don't even know if they would know.
Because, like, serial killer X is talking about getting out, and it's a little.
All right, I only have you back, but we can start talking. Just like Cindy just said, is what does this mean for your cases now that you're on, back at you're really in mainline, but you're still a death row inmate.
Okay, so this is a very in-depth answer that I'm going to try to give you because it not only involves our lawyers and the cookie cutter system that our lawyers have been going by for the last numerous decades with our death penalty appeal.
Hold on 1 second, because one of them is calling back. Let me just try to get them all in the same thing.
Wrangling inmates.
Got them all.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question is what's happening now, because they're off death row, but they're still a death row inmate, technically.
How many phones you got going there, too?
Just one. Well, 3 lines.
On my unit going man down because of butt hurts.
Okay. Junior, you were explaining about the process of being still a death row inmate, but in general pop.
Okay, so on death row, our lawyers did appeals, and they had certain ways of appealing. And since there's so many of us, the process became like a cookie cutter process. They used the same formula for every death row inmate to appeal, and that's what we did. And on death row, there's no.
Can you wait? Hold on 1 second. Can you guys hear him, or is he muffled?
He's a little muffled.
You're a little muffled. If you can enunciate.
Better right now?
That's better.
Yeah.
So the appeals were cookie cutter, and they were set to a certain formula, and our lawyers never stepped foot out of that cookie cutter. And there was no programs for us to do like anger management or victims awareness or criminal addictive thinking or Narcotics Anonymous or other rehabilitation programs that mainline inmates had. So we kind of were in limbo in a cave or in another universe that didn't have much of anything going on. And now that we're out here on the mainline,
we were a prison within a prison.
Prison within a prison.
Yeah. And now that we're out here on the main line, we have access to all these programs now. And there's some death row inmates that are taking advantage of them, and some death row inmates that don't even care to take advantage of them.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Refuse to adapt. And then there's other guys that do want to kind of try, but they can't necessarily get in the program.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
You have a long waiting list. But now that we're out here, I just had a legal visit about a month ago. And I got to my lawyers because I wanted to file for clemency or for a commutation because I've been in prison for so long. I've been doing college for my psychology degree, my sociology degree, and I've done numerous programs like anger management, victims awareness, and other things. And I felt that I have been rehabilitating and that I can possibly deserve someone to take a second look at my case. And my lawyers were like, well, you can't file for clemency because that's something we do at the very tail end of your appeals when you get no action and you're still on death row and they're going to execute you. Then we ask for clemency. And I got an argument with my lawyers. And I said, you are doing in the old cookie-cutter way where there's new avenues for us to take to get out of prison or to get our sentences reduced. And they finally started acknowledging in legal visits that there are other avenues, and they are going to start looking at it. In my case, I don't know how to do with all the cases they have, but some of us, they're starting to think outside the box to get our sentences reduced or commuted.
Is this from Newsom?
No, this is not from Newsom. This is just our lawyers doing this stuff. Newsom might be working on something that we've heard about, but we're not exactly sure, and I don't want to talk about that.
Okay. Funny story, I will say, Junior has all of my serial killers at Vacaville in anger management.
Oh, he does. Interesting.
I started with giggles.
Yeah. How about you, Senior? What's your process? Are you talking to your lawyer about any kind of resentencing because of the dissolve of death row? Is he here?
Who are you asking that to?
Senior.
Oh.
Is he on?
I thought I heard him.
Senior?
Maybe he didn't get back on.
All
How
right.
about you?
Why don't you answer that? Are you exploring avenues?
Right now, I don't even have a lawyer. I don't have an appeal lawyer. They haven't given anybody habeas counsel since 2016. They refused to give it to us because of the moratorium. But right now, I'm just personally taking avenues to show, like, if it does come up, like if I have to go in front of a board or something like that, like I've sort of changed my ways. I'm no longer doing what I was doing. I've grown since I was a kid. You know, I'm trying to show that if I am released someday, I can be a productive citizen. Like I'm going to school, I'm taking college courses, I'm taking these other little classes, whatever they are. That's about like I'm doing what I can do personally to one, also make my people proud of me and make myself proud of myself. But also in the long run, if I go for resentencing, maybe the courts will be like, hey, at least he's trying. He's not just sitting there on his fingers twiddling his thumb.
You know, if both of you were, doing a scared straight program right now, with troubled teens or something of that, I mean, what would be the piece of advice you would give to, people headed down the wrong path?
Before we go there, in 1995, when I first came to prison on my other term, I was in San Quentin on the main line. I had a 2-year prison term. And before I came to prison, I came to prison on the Scared Straight program. I came to it. I was on the Scared Straight program from a Byron Boys Ranch in Contra Costa County. I came. I remember some guys they tried to threaten all this stuff. One, we knew they couldn't touch us, and it was sort of like a joke. It was really joking because at a certain point, I think some of us already know we're destined for prison. Like we don't. Personally, I was one of those kids that didn't care. Like, what are you gonna do? Send me to prison? Send me to why? I don't care. But then when I came to prison, I used to go to visits. I was going to visits 2-3 times a week, and these kids would be coming on Scared Straight program, and they would say my name. So the people got involved. They're like, hey, how do you know these people? I'm like, well, I know most of their brothers and sisters. Like, a lot of these kids come through know who I am through their brothers and sisters. So I participated in the Scared Straight program for a minute. And so for a couple months, and I would tell them, I was straight up with the kids. I was like, some kids, hey, it's too late. You're coming here with me. But I told them, it was just straight up like, you see, you straighten your shit up. Like, the ones that knew who I was, it was easier for me to, mold them and show them, look, you keep doing what you're doing. You know what I was out there doing, and this is where you're coming. There's no way around it. You're either going to come here or die. And I know for a fact, if I didn't come to prison, I would have died. I was going to die the year I got busted. So it's like, you got to be straightforward. None of this threatening kids. Like this one white boy, when I came on the Scared Straight program, this was a white dude named Spike. And he tells me, you couldn't join the Aryan Brotherhood. And I laughed at him because I was like, dude, I'm mixed. There's no way fuck I could get in anyway. So I'm part black. like, I might look white, but I'm part black, so there's no way I'm getting in anyway. So I made a joke of it. But they were trying to do that threatening stuff, and that doesn't work, especially for kids.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Kids that think like I did, like, you know, I'm full fuck authority. That's how I was as a kid. Fuck authority. If you tell me no, I'm doing it.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It was a joke to us. So now, if I was to do a Scare Straight program now, I would just try to understand the child, like what's going on with you, what is causing this anger, what's causing you to self-doubt, what's causing you to commit crimes or whatever. Because once you get under, there's always something. There's always some undertone. It's not that we just choose to be bad. There's something that's causing this. There's something that caused us to choose this life. Whether I chose my friends because I felt safer with my friends than I felt at home. You know what I mean? At least I had some protection than going home and getting my ass whooped. So you just got to get under there and be honest with the kids. You got to be like, look, bro, if you don't straighten up for real, this is where you're coming. And they don't care about your age. They will send you to prison.
Now, what would you say to somebody like myself who's a criminologist or a teacher, you know, seeing a kid headed down the wrong path? What advice could you give to somebody like me or teachers or criminologists out there? What would you say to us?
I'll say this. You know, parents and I guess adults view kids.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Like, we don't know what we're doing, or we need to be told what to do. And most kids rebel against their parents because they want to experiment with life the way that they feel they want to experiment or grow through life. And when a parent or someone in authority tries to tell a kid, don't do this, or like Corey or Megan was saying, you cannot scare a kid straight.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Screw you, I'm going to go try it myself. I can do it. You didn't. You couldn't do it. I'm going to do it. Kids don't think the way that you think they're going to respond to you. So if you go with a kid and rationalize with them, like a guy from my position, telling them, look, I've been through this. I know the avenue you're going down. I know you might not admit to me that you've been abused at home, or this might be going on at home, or this might be going on at school. You got bullied, so you feel you got to join a gang, or whatever you're going through. I understand it. You don't have to admit to me because I don't want you to feel shame that something happened to you, and you got to feel bad about it. But in all reality, that shame will go away. It goes away. You just got to live your life and move forward and do the best for you, and kind of find people that accept you and embrace you, and a big brother or someone will help you. Because kids need a little bit of guidance. They don't need to be told what to do like an authoritarian, because they're just going to rebel. It's better to rationalize with them and try to embrace them. Embrace them.
I mean, you don't even have to rationalize. I would say just like my thing, when I was growing up that way, like Laura, I would say like my whole thing was I just wanted to be left alone. Like, if you're not going to, like, I was trying to get people, I don't want to say I was crying out for help, but because I started off young, and I seen stuff, so I had, like, I'm not psychopath, but I seen stuff that made me, like, sort of numb as a kid. So I would do stuff, but I wanted, like, my dad would yell, I'm like, dude, you're not listening to what I'm trying to tell you. Like, I'm trying to explain to him what's going on, but he didn't want to hear it. You know, he was like, my way or the highway, this type of shit. I'm like, just leave me alone. And it's like you said, it's like, if somebody would have listened, it's a lot of kids, when we get in these situations, we're crying out for help. I'll admit that. I will. It's like, we're crying out like, I don't know if you need a hug or something, but it's like, I need somebody to listen to me because this stuff isn't working. And you're forcing me, like, most parents in schools, they have their agenda to force you one way. And a lot of parents forget that they were kids one time. They forget what they did growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pushing you, you need to do this, you need to go to school, you need to do that. Well, maybe this isn't working for me. And you're trying to explain to them, this isn't working for me. Learning about George Washington doesn't work. It has nothing to do with what I want to do in life. You're forcing me into this. Okay, I'm getting bad grades because I don't understand it. You
have 60 seconds remaining.
It's funny because I'm seeing the common theme of both of you saying, I needed somebody to listen. And I look at Bittaker.
Yeah.
ice pick through the ear, and I mean that was symbolic of I just want to be heard, and I just keep hearing this same echoed, on death row is I just want to be heard. So I feel like this is the lesson we all need to take from this, and children and teenagers, you guys need to be heard. We all need to be, and we all need to be listening, like all of us, if we want to make a change.
Be heard, not judged. Be heard instead of judged. We're being judged automatically.
Right.
They don't need to be heard. They need to be acknowledged.
Right.
They need to be acknowledged.
Yes. Just like you need to understand, the parents need to understand the child, and the child needs to understand the parents. It needs to go both ways. Not just because you're a parent, hey, it's my way, these are my rules. No, you need to understand my point of living too.
Yes. I agree. I think it's gonna hang up. I do have a really good question for
let's just wrap it up though, and we can I'd love to have these guys back on again.
We're running late on time. I just have one last question, and I don't know if you guys have one last question too. If you guys could call right back.
All right, call you right back.
I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of giving murderers a stage. You know that. I have a hard time with this, right? But I do think that the work that you're doing is vital to understanding how these people end up in the place that they end up.
It's like a quote from Mindhunter where he said, "How do we get ahead of crazy unless we understand how crazy thinks?"
Absolutely. Exactly. And so this theme, though, which I think it's really they're being very open about this.
They are being very open, but and this is what I'm saying is like the only way we can get ahead of this is to listen. And
right.
Oh yeah.
Just heard what they both said. Like, I just wanted to be heard. You look at Bittaker, like I said, we've been discussing Bittaker with the ice pick.
Mm-hmm.
Heard. So this is where you start to see as a criminologist the correlations. Okay, well, all these criminals are saying this. And here's, this is where we need to stop and look. Wow, this is a correlation, with everything. Yeah. So we are going to wrap this up, but I just had one question for both of you, because it's so important to, talk to you guys and hear your advice you would give and what's led you here. So I just want to ask you guys, you look at the system we have, the justice system and the prison system, it's so broken. And if you guys could implement something into the prison system that could help, what would both of you implement as something that could help?
Hope.
Is that too much for you?
Otherwise, the prisons are going to be breeding grounds for more crimes. Back in the day, prisons used to be colleges for criminals. And they need to take that element out of the prison system so guys don't come to prison to learn how to do crime or advance in a gang, but they have to come to prison to rehabilitate. And part of that process, or the hugest part of that process, is giving them hope that they can make it home one day. Because if you have no hope, you're just going to get guys coming in. Let's say, for example, that I come in for life, or I come in for 25 years to life, and another guy comes in for 5 years or 7 years. I'm going to teach that guy who's trying to get out of prison something that I did, and he's going to go out and commit the same crimes or advance those crimes. So if you don't give guys hope to rehabilitate and get home, they're just going to come to prison and do like a gladiator school of criminals, of like learning more crimes to get better at criminal activity.
What was the question? Sorry.
If you could put something in the prison system because it's so broken, something that you could implement to help prisoners rehabilitate, what would that be, or what would that look like, or any ideas you have?
Oh man, there's so much that's broken about the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to get that one thought. That's a good one.
It's a deep one.
Like feeding off what he just said, that's for like hope, like because until I got here, like we didn't get none of this stuff. Like school was in our cells, everything was in our cells. Everything was brought to us. So until I got here, and being that I'm sentenced to die, just none of these laws affect us. But now there's like a little shimmer of hope. How they're changing the youth offender laws and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never cared. It's like my thing is, what are you going to do? Kill me? Oh well, there's nothing you can do to me that's not been done before. I don't care.
it's whatever happens, happens. So in prison, I would like to, I don't know, it's a lot of these groups like they have now, or I go to some groups and it's just a straight joke. It's like a rec therapist group. It's a complete joke. It's like no therapy. I get more therapy hanging out with, with juniors than I do in these actual groups here, just by talking to them. But I would try to initiate some kind of, oh man, it's hard to understand, like explain, like.
What do you guys think about like separating first-time offenders from other offenders? Like if we try to focus on just rehabilitating the first-time offenders from the other career criminals. I
strongly believe in that, and I wanted to start a program where they use guys like me and Omega that have been down for numerous years and rationalized and reflected on their life and have come to terms with a lot of things and rehabilitated themselves through self-healing and through self-help groups and gone to college, and that we can get youth offenders, meaning guys that are like 25 and younger, first time in prison or maybe the second time in prison, and that they come into our wing and that they have to go do certain programs. They have to go to get their, they have to go to college, or they have to get a vocational course, and they can come to us as mentors, as big brothers, as uncles, or dads, or whatever they view us as, so that we can kind of guide them. Because
I think education is the most important part. Education.
Yes, I think a lot of first timers come into prison and they get pressured by whatever race they are or whatever gang they're from, like the neighborhood they're from. That gang pressures them. Oh, join us, join us. So all it's doing is getting a first-time offender deeper into the criminal lifestyle. And if you give them first-time offender unit, where you have mentors like me or some other guys that are certified doing mentoring, then I think the criminal justice system and crime on the streets will change. So I think that would be a system that CDCR and the government across the state, the nation, should seriously take a look at its first-time offender unit, especially for youth offenders.
Separate them. I agree.
That sounds logical.
Yeah.
To separate first-time offenders from everybody else?
Yeah.
Well, what if even if they're serving a long-term sentence?
No, I'm talking about like first-time offenders versus them being housed with like the career criminals, making it separate units.
All right. So the kids,
So it's not the college for criminals in prison.
There's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff. I think that depends on the individual, though. Some individuals need to be put in a situation where maybe they'll be set straight. Because, like, when I go to this juvenile hall camp, I was in the juvenile hall camp where they had Olympic weights. We had a swimming pool. We had basketball courts. I didn't care if I was in jail. I was like, I go here and I eat like a champion. I go home on the weekend. You know, it was Camp Snoopy to me. So I think if some people, they're going to need to be, I don't want to use the word scared straight, but like reality of the situation. Like they come in, like, all right, when I came to prison and I went to committee one time, when I first came to prison on my other case, they were like, the committee was like, because I was 19, there's another guy, he was 19 also, and they pulled some committee, like, you guys are gang members, blah, blah, blah. People don't give a fuck about you. And they were talking about other inmates. And we were trying to tell them, we don't give a fuck about these other inmates, too. Yes, that was my first time, but I was a full-blown gang member, a full-blown, fully active, I don't care. That type of attitude. And it's like, so like, there's people like that, but there's also people that need to come in and need the reality check. Like, you come back to prison, this could be your life. Like to see what the other side is all about, whether it's the whole, see these, I think it's good, and it's sad to say, to see like you got these zombies walking around. This could be your life if you don't straighten up. You could be, like with me, I got a cat in my unit right now that's, he's doing like 20-something years and he thinks it's hilarious. And I'm like, dude, do you want to go home? Because if you don't, I can help you.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
All right, guys, we're at low time, but there was one last question. What do you guys call the death row group? Because you guys have a death row support group in Vacaville. What's it called?
I don't even know what it's called.
Junior?
I don't even know. What's it? Junior.
It's the Death Row Support Group.
No.
Well, yeah, so yeah. We'll give it a name tomorrow.
No, it's not. No, I said, what is it? What do you guys jokingly call it?
Well, I don't know.
What do you call it? What are you referring to?
Serial Killers Anonymous.
Oh yeah. I just don't go. I'm not going around Thanksgiving because ain't no little weirdos eating my ass.
Wow.
I'm not pretty, but I got meat on my bones.
That's a great way to end the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, listen, we appreciate your sharing with us. Sounds like you guys have an interesting philosophy about being behind bars. We'd love to have you back on at some point as we digest all this stuff, and probably have a lot of questions for you. But we thank you for coming on the podcast.
Any last words for you guys? Any final words? Last words?
I have one last word, and I hope if people listen to this, because a lot of people have a misconception about death row inmates, that they're all sickos, and some people are on death row. But the other conception is that we all are people.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Prolong our life. And that is farthest from the truth, because we file our appeals and the judges sit on our appeals for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years before they rule, because it's political. They don't want to get kicked off the bench that they're on, or it's not the right time to adapt certain laws, so they don't rule on our cases. So for those people that think that we do this on purpose, it's a huge misconception. We want our appeals heard. We want the justice to be done and over with, so we either get executed, we get our sentences reversed, we get a new trial, or we go home. We don't want to be sitting here. So
if you had a choice between dying in prison as an old man or being executed now, what would be your choice?
Execute me now.
Yeah. My whole philosophy is always kill me or let me go home. If you're not going to let me go home, wax me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Either rehabilitate me and let me go home, or kill me, or let something else happen. I'm not going to sit around like an item on a shelf.
Or give me constables.
All right. On that note, we're done. We'll see you guys next time, though. It was nice talking to you.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
All right. Well, listen. You got a variety of characters there.
Yes.
Junior seems like he's the philosopher. Seems like Omega. I mean, he seems like he's coming around to that. He hasn't gotten there, and Senior, obviously, he's completely institutionalized. He's kind of like the Morgan Freeman from Shawshank, kind of.
What's funny? Yeah, totally.
He has very completely institutionalized. I don't even think he would know what to do if he got out.
He reminds me of John Moss.
What's the character from? What's the
Red?
movie? Red. That is exactly him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting. I mean, it's like they have an enormous amount of respect for you, Laura. It's obvious. And to be able to get these, hardened killers to kind of sound like human beings is pretty.
Years.
It is sad because I do know where he's talking about Contra Costa County up in Northern California. It's pretty rough. As a kid, probably enduring a lot of abuse and things that are probably horrific from what it sounded like. It doesn't excuse murdering anyone. It doesn't excuse homicidal behavior. It doesn't excuse.
And the thing is, nothing excuses homicide.
No.
Nothing at all. What we're doing is looking at, the correlations between them, and we're looking at their childhood.
Exactly. Because it is about the systemic issues that we have in this country. And from me who has lived in 5 countries, I can tell you that they handle things a lot differently than we do. And I don't, these kids shouldn't be exposed to things that they're exposed to at such a young age, because look what happens. It rewires their brain. I do believe that.
Really. I mean, it does. It's getting worse with the school shootings. And, we really, I think we're going to have another, Peter Vronsky and I have talked about, we think there's going to be another flare up of serial killers.
I do too. And I've noticed that recently. I've been reading a bunch of articles, like there's these flare ups and like they've been popping up and then they go away and the news doesn't cover them. And then they pop up again. And then you're like, well, there was one in Big Bear the other day. And they were saying that they thought, some people were speculating that it was potentially connected to a few other unsolved cases in the same area, which wouldn't surprise me, because there must be a vortex in this Los Angeles area, because
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
More people.
And then Hollywood attracts them too. Hollywood's, it's just that people come from all over the nation to Hollywood. So, even from out of state. But
also in Boston, they were having a couple of unsolved murders recently.
There's supposed to be a serial killer in New
England. I know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's there. Then in Austin, we know for a fact, because we were there when it was happening.
It's still happening. They haven't solved those.
They haven't solved those. I mean, I do think that you and Peter are correct that there is an uptick, a spike of this type of behavior.
I haven't even seen it yet, but the thing is, we can't just keep shoving this under the carpet. And, as uncomfortable as it is to talk to these offenders on death row who have murdered multiple people, I know it's uncomfortable. But the thing is, we're not going to get to the correlation or the bottom of, what's connecting all of them and what this underlying cause is unless we do. So this is why, I spend so much time in the prison, is I'm searching for these answers. This is why I have this questionnaire. And we just, like I said, we can't just keep shoving it under the rug, because it's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, I did find it interesting, the fact that they felt like the appeal process doesn't really help them, and that they would much rather it be much shorter or not have it at all, and then just get the the sentence basically do like I said, they both rather would be executed than spend their life in prison, which I found very interesting.
It's very interesting, because I've spoken to a lot of FBI profilers and stuff, and they've said to me, well, they're like, oh, there are appeals or, the death penalty. And I'm like, guys, they're not scared of this. They're not scared of the appeals. They're not scared of the death penalty.
They're living in hell.
He even just said he'd rather be executed than to spend the rest of his life in prison. So to them, they don't care. I mean, they came from horrific, at least one of them has come, at least that's my gut, from horrific circumstances to begin with. So it's
sometimes prison's better, honestly, from where some of their
not everybody's a David Carpenter, 94 years old, and thinking that this is great. I'm
getting meals and I get to do hang out with these other group of elite serial killers. It's insane.
And this is why I always say every killer is different. Every killer is different, unique.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very interesting how the underlying theme we've just saw tonight, on display in real time is I don't feel heard. I've never felt heard. And we talked about Bittaker for the last year. And I mean, it's just the number one thing. And it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Not heard.
I think the next time we do it, we just have two at a time.
It's too much with three of them.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's hard to hear who's who.
To wrangle all that, but thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that just hearing, and they're like, it's almost like they're. I mean, I don't even know how to say it, but it's just like you realize that hearing them talk like that, you think they're monsters, but there's humanity amongst those monsters, and they're monsters, but there's a slice of them that they're human monsters. So they have all the same traits that we do, and all the same.
Yeah, but they don't
feelings.
have empathy.
They don't have empathy. Well, I mean, it's interesting though.
Every killer's different. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like,
I mean, every killer is different. But listen, if you take 8 lives, those are 8 people that had
8 lives. When you take the 8 lives,
you had 8 people who had a life, and their life was just taken from them for nothing. It's really hard for me. I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they're in there for one murder that happened, I mean,
I mean, okay, that could be maybe it was a mistake. He was young. They were very young, 19 years old, 20 years old. Maybe they were in a gang. Maybe they were made a mistake. I understand that.
Whacked down on
but
drugs.
8 people.
Yeah, 8 people.
That's something's that's terrifying.
A great highlight of death row too is you have a guy who murdered 8 in his 40s, and then you have 19-year-old, and killed 1, and it's the dichotomy you see of death row, and
and what sparks you in your 40s to start killing people? Like, what's the inciting incident for that?
There's been a lot of serial killers that sparked up randomly
in their 40s. I know, we've talked about this. It's like it's either they start very, very young, like Bittaker, or it's like something in their 40s where they just something snaps and they just go crazy.
27 is the typical age where you will when they start is the median age.
Yeah.
7.
I'm just always interested in how do you go from living a normal life to suddenly being that? How does that? What happens there?
Well, maybe they've been thinking about it a very long time.
It's
and
so
they fantasizing.
Really hard to wrap my brain around it. And all I think about is the victim.
And it just kind of escalates. Maybe it starts off with,
well,
low-level stuff.
The underlying fantasy, and then there's typically a stressor, and the two
right.
top stressors, loss of love or loss of job or both. And
there has to be something that triggers them in some way, that even if you're like living in this fantasy, like something happens that pushes you past that, over the limit, past the human.
The point of no return, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Past being human to me. I mean, I just think that you can't really be human and take another life and take another life and take another. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's
very hard for me to wrap my brain around. Anyway, great job, Laura. It's really hard work that you do. People don't realize how hard you work, and all day, all night, gathering all of this information and just processing it and trying to make sense of it and trying to get to the core of why these people do what they do. And it's extraordinary work that you do. And
you're managing all these psychopaths.
You are managing the psychopaths.
It's like, you're talking to them. They call you nonstop.
And your tactical empathy is what really does it.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what it is. I mean, you're empathetic in the sense that it's enough to connect with them, but it's tactical because
they're opening up.
You're maneuvering it for your own purpose to understand what they're doing.
It's really like a scientific formula.
It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. And stay on. We'll look forward to next week. Who knows?
Next week, yeah.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.